Hey Ryan, how you going, mate? I'm really, really good. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat to us today.
It's my pleasure, man.
So, Ryan, I know a lot of people out there are very, very excited about this tour coming up. How are you feeling about returning back to Australia, a country that you guys have had a love affair with for a long time now?
Oh man, dude, we're really excited. There's a handful of countries and places in the world that we always get excited to go to, and it's always a good show and never disappoints. And Australia's at the top of that list, dude. And I know all American bands always say that, but there's a reason why because it's true, man. It is such a fun place to go.
Yeah. What is it that you love about Australia? Like, is it been like this was one of the countries that embraced you from the very start, or what have you made some fond memories here over the years? What is it that you love about Australia so much?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of holds a special place in our collective heart because way back in the day, our first like successful like bigger tour outside of the states was Australia, and to this day, Sydney, Australia, in 2005 was our biggest headlining show ever, like in our whole career, like even including our hometown. So yeah, it just kind of has a special place in our heart, and the people are just. I mean, that's me personally. My favorite thing about coming to Australia, I love the people. Like everyone is just a little nicer, a little happier, a little friendlier, just in a better mood. I don't know. It's there's something about the Australian people that I just find to be really like refreshing and really fun. Like a really fun people. They're
Yeah.
always excited for the show, and everything's just always good.
How have you found our crowds over the years? Because I talk to a lot of bands, and a lot of bands say that the Aussie crowds are some of the craziest in the world. Is that something that you have experienced over the years?
Yes, and dude, so we were just at Knotfest last year, right? And I feel like Australia is one of the only places where Story of the Year could play with Megadeth and freaking Slipknot because, like, I was actually kind of nervous about it, and I don't typically get nervous before we play. I've been just doing it too long or whatever. But I looked at the billing; it's like Megadeth, Parkway Drive, Slipknot, blah blah, and like we're the only band on the entire bill that's not like super heavy. But the shows were freaking awesome. And
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, it's just because of the crowd and the people. And yeah, like you said, it's just Australians go off, dude. They just know how to have a good time. I feel like there's a level of appreciation because it does take. I mean, we have to fly across the entire world to get there. And I think people are always like very appreciative and aware of that. And I don't know. I've never had a bad show in Australia ever in 20 years.
Yeah. Now, this is a very special tour as well, of course, because it's celebrating the 20th anniversary of your debut album. How does that feel for you looking back and thinking that happened 20 years ago?
Man, it's crazy because it just flew by.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the thing I feel most, as like cheesy as this sounds, is just, man, I'm just grateful. Like I get to do this still. Like this is still my job. I still pay my house payment by playing music with my best friends in the world. And after 2 decades, the fact that like I still get to do this for a living is kind of fucking crazy. And that's kind of most of what I feel these days. It's like, geez, like I could be digging ditches or sitting in a cubicle somewhere, but instead I'm with my best friends playing music that I wrote and that I love, and I don't take any of that for granted ever. So that's kind of what I feel most.
Yeah.
It's just gratitude.
Thinking back to that time though, when you guys were working on that album, take us back to that time. What kind of things were happening within the band at that time, and what was it like sitting down and working on a debut album like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because so we live in St. and we moved to California, to Los Angeles to get a record deal, get signed, make a record, all that stuff. none of us had any money. I had like $300 to my name. We were all going to rent this tiny house, and there was 7 of us all going to live in it. And that time of our life, it was music and the band 24/7. We, round the clock, day in, day out, it was all we did was work on our band. It's all we cared about. We were savage, crazy fucking animals that worked, and grinded and grinded and grinded. So, I mean, that time in our life was so special, because we were so singular in our focus, you know? So when I think about that time, it's like we were just so hungry, you know? We wanted it so bad, you know? And I think that kind of came through in that record and came through in the lyrics, you know?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Going back, when you're going back and focusing on an album like this, and you go back and revisit those lyrics, what does that mean to you? Because does that take you back to that time and kind of refresh your memory of what it was like? And sometimes a track can be quite painful to go back and focus on as well. What's that like for you, going back and revisiting those lyrics 20 years later?
Man, it's something. Because I personally wrote some of those songs, the lyrics to some of those songs, and like, you know, playing this album again, start to finish on these tours, like I kind of wasn't expecting it to be so like emotionally like significant.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of memories, and there's nights on stage where I'm just like singing along, and like, again, not to be cheesy, but like I'll get like goosebumps, you know, because certain lyrics I can remember writing them, being in California in our shitty little house, like sitting on the roof at nighttime with a notebook and an acoustic guitar and just writing these lyrics, like, and, you know, just being in that flow state and in that zone, and it's like that feeling of like having your whole life ahead of you and just wanting something so bad. And 20 years later, kind of re-experiencing that feeling, it's like, holy shit, like it happened. Like it actually happened. Like we actually did it, you know? And it's a really surreal kind of feeling that I don't know, I wasn't quite expecting it, you know? And there's nights playing this record where I just feel so connected to that time in my life, and it's just such a good feeling, you know?
Yeah. Are there any tracks you wish you could leave out? Because I spoke to a friend recently who said that and he said that when he goes back and revisits his tracks from like 10, 15 years ago, sometimes he's singing love songs that he wrote for another girl in front of his wife nowadays.
Yeah. No, not really. I'll just be completely honest with you. There's one song on there called Burning Years that I just don't really have much of a connection to, but it's still, the song is still pretty cool or whatever, but I just don't, it just doesn't hit like the other ones do. But for the most part, like, start to finish, that record just encapsulates such a special time in my life that I have so much nostalgia for it, and so many, like, so much emotion wrapped up in the record as a whole that it's just kind of special playing every one of them, to be honest, you know?
Yeah. So I've got to ask a big question. You said before that you love Australia. What do you like doing when you're here away from the stage as well?
Yeah, dude. So one thing I'm really looking forward to on this trip, so I do photography also. I'm really into taking pictures, and one of my favorite things to do on tour is just to wake up, slam coffee, walk out of my hotel, and just walk and just take photos. And places like Sydney, I love Brisbane. I'm like, that's the thing I'm most excited for, is just to do that during the day, is just go off and be creative and kind of get in that mindset, and just, you know, that it makes me feel so creative and so like charged up to do that. So that's kind of the thing I'm most excited about. And, you know, like there's always like after the show, like we, you know, go to bars and stuff and all that, and that's all fun and everything. But yeah, man, just being in Australia, walking around with my camera, I'm mostly excited for that.
Yeah, so I have to ask now, where did that love for photography come from, and what do you like taking photos of? Are you kind of an urban photographer or nature photographer? What do you enjoy doing?
Well, it just kind of hits the same part of my brain as music, right? So I feel the most like alive and the most just happy when I'm being creative. Like I feel most like myself when I'm making something, right? Whether that's a photo or a song or whatever. So, when I'm taking photos, it feels like I'm playing guitar. It just does. And I like photographing people the most, like capturing a person in some kind of situation, like an environmental portrait. Like that's kind of my favorite stuff. But yeah, when I'm walking around, anything that I find compelling, whether it's landscape, architecture, whatever, I'll just photograph anything and everything.
Definitely. So, Ryan, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly. We've got about a minute left. So, to finish off, what would you like to say to all of your fans out there in Australia before they head out to see these amazing shows?
If you're like us and spent 20 years with this record, if you grew up listening to this record, if you have emotional connection to this record like we do, it's going to be a really special night. And I promise you, you will get goosebumps and you will scream your heart out and you will have a great night because that's what we do. And I think people are going to be really pumped.
Definitely. I just got told I've got time for one quick question. So one more question.
Yeah, man.
What is it like for
Sure.
you playing in front of people that, for them, your music has been the soundtrack to their life? There are a lot of Aussies coming out to these shows that will have been listening to you guys for 20 years. What's that like playing in front of people where your music is a soundtrack to their life?
Dude, for somebody like me that built a life around being creative and that pursuit of creativity and that pursuit of like making shit, it's the highest honor and such a privilege, and I don't take it for granted. I've seen, guitar lyrics or guitar tablature. I've seen lyrics tattooed on people. I've talked to people that, got married, walked down the aisle to our songs. I've talked to people that, were, in desperate need of mental health, and our songs, or help for mental health, and our songs kind of got them through a dark spot. Like, I've heard all these stories, and for a dude like me, that's the whole point of being creative, is to connect with another human being. So when I talk to somebody or hear a story like that something I made emotionally impacted another human being, it's like the greatest gift and the greatest honor, and I don't take it lightly. Like it's really significant to me, and I really appreciate it. So it's pretty fucking amazing, man. It's a pretty amazing feeling to connect with people like that.
Yep.